Yo guys, welcome to Shine Gaming. Today we're going to be going through some tips and combos on the new champion Rell. I hope you enjoy. One tip about your E, if you want to switch the person you're bound to, you can't just kind of click on the ally that you want to bind to, because it's going to activate that and then you're going to have to wait a long time. In this case it was 17 seconds before you can use your E again. And when your E does come back up, you're just going to be bound to the same person. So to actually unbind yourself from the ally because you want to bind to someone else, you got to click yourself. So get your E, click yourself, and now you're unbound, and it was only a 3-second cooldown, which is much faster, and now you can use it on the second ally instead. Regarding her W Ferromancy Crashdown, make sure whenever you're coming back from base that you're in your mounted form, because you do get bonus movement speed. The bonus movement speed, however, does get reduced when you take damage from someone who's not a minion. So like that Lucian, for example. With your W, when you're actually using the crash down form, note that you can jump over an enemy champion, so just make sure you're aware of that. And as you might see, there's kind of like a little area over here where you'll travel to after you land. You can't stop this movement even if you flash, so right now I'm gonna try to flash away as soon as possible. I'm spamming flash, I only flash at the very end. And yes, you can jump over walls with it, which is very nice, especially these ones. And don't forget that when you do use your crash down, you are really slowed, your movement speed is really slow, and you have quite a long cooldown before you can mount up again. So just be aware that if anyone's around you when you use your crash down, you will be slowed and you might take quite a bit of damage, but of course you gain the shield and you have your passive to give you extra resistances. And one thing to note, your movement speed when it's really slow because you've crashed down does not change even if you buy boots. So if we buy this, we're still at 400. Even if we buy, for example, a movement speed item such as Phantom Dancer that gives 7% movement speed, we're still on 400, it is just fixed. And even with Home Guard, because we're on the base, I mean, we are walking really slowly. If you want to throw an enemy champion or any enemy over your head, then when you press the mount up form, you have 3.5 seconds to auto attack an enemy, and if you do it in those 3.5 seconds, then you'll knock them over. So if we press our W now and attack now, we will knock them behind us. However, of course, if you take slightly too long and then you attack, you won't do that. But remember, you gain bonus movement speed when you mount up, and that increases even more when you're running towards an enemy champion, which is nice. One great thing about Rell's E, which is attract and repel, is that when you go out of the range and you come back, it basically reconnects, which is great. And obviously you can bind it to another champion. So for example, if you decide to go to do a roam mid or something, or you want to gank, or you want to, for example, the jungler's here, from over here in this bush you can bind to him, and then you can, for example, gank someone over here. And obviously the E gives them armor and magic resist, so you'll have the highest chance of success for the gank. And just so you know, you don't have to specifically click on Ezreal or whoever's your ADC. You can kind of click nearby, like over here, and it'll select the nearest enemy champion, friendly champion, not the enemy champion. That would be very awkward if you're giving them bonus armor. That's the definition of trolling. Regarding her Q, Shattering Strike, in case you want to make a nice flash play with your Q, the best thing to do is start the Q first and then flash. So if we're over here, we Q then flash, because it starts the ability from wherever you are at the end of the cast time. So instead of doing flash and then Q, which obviously it takes some time to charge up the Q and someone can easily run away, you want to start it off first and then flash. You want to make sure that you hit whoever you're focusing first with the Q, because the first person hit will deal the most damage. So for example, if we hit it like this and the person we're actually focusing is behind, they'll take less damage. They take 50% less damage basically. And also, the only person who break the mold your passive will apply to, which your Q can trigger it, is the first person hit as well. An interesting point I want to make about her passive break the mold is that to maximize the amount of armor and magic resist you steal, you want each of your auto attacks to be on a unique champion every time, because hitting the same champion multiple times, as you can see over here, it isn't gonna increase any of these. It only happens once on each champ, and it lasts for 4 seconds. However, as you can see here, whenever you're attacking the champion, you refresh the timer, which means the enemy, which over here on the top left you can see they've had their resistances reduced, that will constantly be refreshed. But the good thing about Rell is, even if you attack another champion, so if we're attacking this other champion and we click on the original one, you can see that we're refreshing the stealing of resistances on that champion as well. So it refreshes it on all the champions that you've hit, which is great. So just to summarize, we're just going to look at the, let's say, magic resist, because it's on a nice round number. So we go into a team fight of 2 enemies, we attack the first one, it increases, we attack the second one, it increases further, I think one of our runes probably went off and gave us some additional magic resist. But as long as we steal everyone's armor and magic resist during the fight, we will be as tanky as possible, and they will continue to remain weak throughout the remainder of the fight, so your teammates can hopefully get some pentakills. And of course, ideally you want the first champion that you attack to be the one who's the biggest tank, because you'll steal more of their armor and magic resist and you'll be tankier yourself. Regarding her ultimate Magnet Storm, some things you can and can do. You can't pull them like over the wall, which kind of makes sense, but you can kind of pull them a bit closer because you initially pull people. Same way you also can't ult and then flash away, that won't bring them with you. And same way you can't ult and then land somewhere else. As you can see, you'll pull them a little bit, but then once you go a bit too far, they're out of it. One thing to note about the ultimate as well is that the enemy can move out of it. So for example, they're not like stunned or anything, they can still move. And if they go out of the range, then they're not being pulled in and it's as if nothing has happened. So in terms of some combos, let's start with before ultimate, what you can do. So first of all, when you're bound to your ally, you want to try to get a Q first so that you can break their resistances and deal damage. And then once you've done that, you want to W and crash into them, and then eventually press your E so that you can stun them, and then hopefully your ADC will, or whoever is over there, can do a lot of damage. So this looks like this. And then bam, stun. Now the second one is if you have flash, and as I said before, you can do the Q and then flash if you happen to be further out the range. So let's say for example we're here or we're behind a wall and we want to get them, so we can do Q flash and then W and then E. So just to do that again, we Q flash and then W and then press our E. But as you can see, the problem with this combo is kind of it depends on where you're coming from, because as you saw with our W, we have the uncontrollable movement at the end and we kind of had to walk a bit back before we did our E. But of course you could be doing it from this angle, for example, where you're doing this, and then you can just press E comfortably. It's much easier like that, and give it an exhaust because why not? And of course we have the same thing with our ultimate, with or without the flash. I'm going to do it with the flash anyway, and then we can do this, stun them, and then we can do that, bring them towards the ADC and stop them from running away. And of course there might be some times where you want to chase an enemy because you've got an ally nearby. You want to change into the mounted form because you get the bonus movement speed, especially when you're chasing an enemy champion, and as long as you auto attack them within the 3.5 seconds, you can knock them back. So let's do that here. We're going like this, we knock them back, and then we can stun them, and once again we can use our ultimate. However, one thing we can do, because we can't for example ultimate like that and flash and hope that they appear here, because it's not a teleport, it's a gravity pull. However, one thing we could do is, because usually after the dash we end up behind them, and if we were to ult now, we kind of, when they're kind of not really moving any closer to them. What I mean by that is if we press Alt now and walk backwards, they're basically standing still for most of the time because our center of gravity kind of is there and we have to walk past them before they start actually being dragged. So we could actually flash and then ult. So if we save the flash at the beginning, if we, let's say we just get a Q and then we do this and then we stun them, we could flash and then bring them, because then they'll travel a much greater distance. So they went from there all the way to there. Whereas before we were doing this, where we do this and then we press Alt and then, you know, they don't travel as much. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like, it helps out a lot, and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what you think of the new champion. Adios.